Michael Keaton stars in a new limited series called Dopesick. It's about the growing opioid crisis in the United States and how it got started. We had a chance to sit down with two of its stars, Phillipa from Hamilton and Will Poulter from We're the Millers. They play pharmaceutical sales associates who factor into the sprawling story of addiction and a nation in crisis. Take a look. How are you two? I'm surprised that you're playing pharmaceutical reps. It surprises me. Is it a career that you've ever heard of before now?
I heard of it. My dad's a doctor. And so I remember him coming home with like all of these pens that had all these very strange drug names on them. And I was just like, yeah, of course. Like, this is what everybody has, just like random, drug rep pens in your house. But no, not everybody had that.
Did he talk about how they were always kind of bothering him?
The
drug reps. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think ultimately I just assumed it was a part of the job, that he's a doctor and there's drugs out there that are helping people with their pain and their issues. And, that's all a part of it. It wasn't until I showed up on set and I saw all of the props and there was like all of these pens.
It's like home.
Yeah. I was like, oh, wow. That's
Will, had you heard of them before? Or were you familiar with the career?
It's interesting. My dad's in medicine as well. And so is my mom. So I was vaguely aware of the role. The kind of disturbing discovery for me was to find out that, to be a pharmaceutical rep at Purdue at that time, you didn't have to have any kind of real scientific knowledge or kind of qualifications in any of the sciences. And that was a slightly kind of disturbing thing to learn as part of the research process.
Did you two see how there's a bit of acting that's involved with this? How they have to kind of schmooze the person at the front desk, then they have to try and worm their way into the doctor to actually start putting the pitch on?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's kind of like acting 101, right? Your character wants something or needs something just to sell this drug, and how are you going to do it? And you gotta. Sometimes it's very easy, and sometimes it's not.
Right. And actually bribery and coercion was kind of an everyday part of the sort of, training program. Purdue reps were encouraged to, bribe to buy gifts. They had a concept called pitch and pump. Yeah, fancy dinners. They had a concept called pitch and pump, where you offer to fill up the gas tank of a doctor while you pitch to them, and that was sort of an everyday thing. And yeah, you see pharma reps being encouraged to take people to ticketed events, and they obviously laid on kind of very sort of extravagant getaways and weekends for traveling doctors. So yeah, bribery and coercion were two pillars of the sort of Purdue program.
I've got to back up too. Why did you two not go into medicine?
I didn't have the grades personally.
Well, I saw that my dad just never got a lot of sleep, and I thought, well, that sounds like, I don't know if I want to do that. And then I became an actor and I don't really sleep, so I guess not good.
Isn't that the way it goes, right? I assumed you were filming this during the pandemic, right?
Yeah, January through to May of this year. May? January, March? Yeah,
May.
What did that do for your feelings about, do I trust vaccines? Do I trust what people are telling me? Did that undercut anything or not?
It didn't undercut anything for me. I think if anything, it made me more curious and motivated to be involved and educating myself. I mean, I think ultimately at the end of the day, with this kind of storytelling, that's what I hope, that people start asking questions and finding out answers for themselves, that this is not meant to be, a closed book, that it's really meant to just be the beginning of a journey of digging into our history as a country, our culture as a country, and finding out why things are working the way they are and how to make them work for us. And so I think, especially during a pandemic, we were really hyper aware of the fact that there's flaws in our pharmaceutical system, there's flaws in our healthcare system, And we're seeing it play out in front of us while we're telling the story about the flaws within it historically. So if anything, it made me really proud and excited to be an active participant in helping stop this virus.
Yeah, I would say a similar thing, and also just very proud of, here in the UK with our healthcare system and the NHS. My dad works for the NHS, my sister works for the NHS, my mum's a former NHS worker. Made me very, very proud of people in the medical profession, and in relation to Dopesick, and looking at the way that Purdue conducted themselves as a pharmaceutical company, it made me want to be on the right side of science more and more. Whereas Purdue were actively engaging in false prophecies like pseudo addiction and concepts that really kind of fly in the face of science.
Can I ask, both of you have been in very iconic productions. Hamilton, God, will it ever leave your name? Probably not. We're the Millers. Kenny, we can never forget.
Often in the same sentence.
Right? Aren't they often the same? But how do you guys choose what you do after something like that, where you get a lot of attention for it?
I mean, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think Hamilton is in a slightly different category in terms of being iconic. But yeah, for me, it was about, I guess, trying to find things that were less kind of comedic, just to be able to kind of try and exhibit that I had interest and a desire to kind of want to do drama. So very grateful that things like Dopesick come along, but also very grateful that I got an opportunity to do something like Miller's. But please talk about Hamilton now.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I'm interested in stories that speak to me, and there's various elements to that. One being, for Dopesick, that it's socially, politically conscious, and it's not only character driven, but also it's pointing out all of the systemic issues that we have in this country. And I love that I can be of service to the story and show up and not only do something that I feel like is good and entertaining, but something that is important and maybe can actually change people and move people.
Will, you got to fight with Michael Keaton. What was that like?
Yeah, I'm wondering whether am I getting into spoiler territory by talking like that? I was honored to be.
Because you could fight with him all the time, right?
Right. Yeah, I'm wondering at what point that, I'm trying to think. I'm like getting nervous about dropping the ball, but no, I did. I got to kind of spar with him in many ways during this show, and I mean, crazy. He's so good that really you just have to kind of show up and react and be present. He kind of does all the work for you. He's a fantastic actor. And, I was just saying, like, for me and in playing Billy, there were two relationships that were very, very important to my character's development. And that was my relationship to Amber, Pippa's character, and my relationship to Phoenix. And I was very lucky that, in both cases, I was working with such exceptional actors that my job was pretty easy, really. I was just reacting to what was in front of me, and that's a dream,
Well, and you could say I punched Batman, right? It could happen at some point.
Well, Batman punched me.
Batman beat you up. Let's just put it that way. I'm sorry to throw you under the bus on that one, but there you are.
That's all right.
When you're sitting in those drug rep meetings, in the film, and you see them kind of cheering them on, do you see any kind of comparison to any other kind? I mean, it almost seems like a pyramid scheme where people are trying to get you to get on board with what they want to do. But what did you relate it to?
I mean, I just think that there's a deep desire within all humans to belong in some way. Yeah. And I think that, in any of these group settings, in any of these, large departments and companies and governments, and there's just a sense of wanting to belong and feel like you're a part of something. And, especially in those drug rep meetings, like it was like a party sometimes, right? And it was a party a couple of times, right? So it's like this desire to find community, find your place, and I'm not surprised that people are drawn to that.
Yeah, when you look at it now, where else did we make mistakes in all of this? Are there things that we should be more aware of? Should there be more regulation on all these things? I mean, because it freaks you out when you think, oh my God, I could become addicted to this.
I think, yeah, 100%. I think for me, one of the things that I hope Dopesick draws attention to is the kind of historical vilification of people who've been affected by opioid addiction and addiction as a disease in general. I think for a long time, and this is certainly a narrative that Purdue preyed on, for a long time, the people who have suffered from addiction have been made the villains of the story, not the people who fraudulently promoted the drugs in the first place or promised them that it would relieve them of their pain. 70% of 70% of overdoses in America are due to opioid addiction. And that is a pain relief medication. And, the vast majority of people who start on pain meds, well, they go because they're injured. They go because, they end up on that medication because they sought help for their doctor for an injury that they suffered through manual labor. So often these are hardworking, honest people looking for pain relief. And, somewhere down the line, we relabel them as the villains. And I think addict is too often conflated to villain, or to someone who is, inherently bad or wrong for having, faced that struggle. And that needs addressing, certainly on a broad scale.
Right. Well, hey, thank you so much. It's fascinating to watch. And I think back to when I've been offered OxyContin at a dentist's office. And I think, oh my God, what if I had taken that? What would happen? So this is a very kind of telling film that maybe will make people stop and think before anything goes further. I hope anyway.
Thank you.
Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks a lot, man.